All right, let's do it. Hello, everybody, and welcome. We are so glad you're here for the next webinar in the FLATE webinar series. This one is how to develop ET dual enrollment or early college programs. And it's going to focus on a real life example that was created here in Jacksonville with the partners that you will meet in a few minutes. The webinar is going to be facilitated by Carissa Gardner, which I'll hand over to her in a few minutes. So FLATE stands for the Florida Advanced Technological Education Center, and what FLATE does is we drive Florida's world-class manufacturing workforce education and training, and we do that in many ways. We work with all the schools, the state colleges, community colleges in Florida, as well as the tech colleges on curriculum reform and development. We also do a lot of outreach and help with student recruitment. We do a different professional development for educators. This is one of them that you're attending today, but there's a host of others, which we will show you here in a few minutes. And we also do some technician education and research. So FLATE has a big impact in Florida, and these are a few of the things that we do. Next slide, please. So some of the schools that we work with around the state, at least the community/state colleges, you can see here, all the way from the tip of the state in the Panhandle, all the way down to the Florida Keys, so and everything in between. So all these schools have ET programs or manufacturing engineering related programs, and we work with all these to try to increase, help make the programs better. Work with the industry to partner with the schools, as well as helping young people understand the value of the careers in manufacturing. So some of the things that we do as far as the FLATE activities, we do a lot of outreach events, like I mentioned, develop curriculum. We also host the FLATE Manufacturing Educators Awards, which are very exciting. We just had the award winners announced, and you'll be seeing that soon in the newsletter. Oh, speaking of the newsletter, if you're not currently in it, I think we'll send you a link while the presentation is going on, and you can sign up. I'm sure that Teresa will probably take the names and email addresses of the people that signed up here and add them to the list. But if you'd like to have a different email or someone else would like to join, please let us know. We also host something called the ET Forum, which we meet twice a year with all the colleges across the state that have ET programs to collaborate on grants, curriculum updates, just helping each other be more successful working in their colleges and working with students. One of the things that we just created, still being worked on, certainly, is the data dashboard. I'm sure that you'll get a link to that in a few minutes. But the data dashboard has some great information about the careers and opportunities for manufacturing in Florida. It's got a lot of information there, so we ask you to please take a look at it when you get a few minutes. And we also offer mentor programs. So I know Marilyn's been doing this for a long time, as well as the rest of the FLATE team, working with a new faculty member at schools, helping them get connected, maybe trying to help find some vendors for certain equipment that they need, or just helping faculty in general be better educators and get more connected. Next slide, please. Okay, so believe it or not, we've had a whole series of these webinars. This is the second to the last one that we're doing today. There's one more, which is a part of a 4-part series on cybersecurity that will be on May 10th next week from 11 to 12. Good news is all of the webinars are recorded, and you can see the link below there if you'd like to go check them out. Some great content and some really useful information to help you either as an educator or an industry person work more closely with the other. One of the things that I think we have a few seats left is the Summer Teacher Institute. It's June 12th through 16th at St. Pete College. And I believe, sorry, my Zoom is blocking it, but I believe you can get to the link below there. All right, so these are some of the resources that FLATE has created, some exceptional resources. FLATE.org, madeinflorida.org, and the FLATE public wiki is another great resource, along with the, you can see at the very bottom there, the FLATE monthly newsletter, some incredible resources. Teresa does a great job every month of putting out a really in-depth newsletter about all the happenings as far as manufacturing education and outreach in Florida. And then the other resource that there's not a picture for, but the other resource is the new FLATE, well, there is a picture, sorry, is the new FLATE dashboard. So you can get to it with the address on the bottom, or you can just go to manufacturingmattersfl.org, manufacturingmattersfl.org, and you can get to this interactive dashboard. Lots of great resources there. So please take a few minutes and check it out. All right, so the team at FLATE, there's 4 of us at FLATE. It always amazes me how much we get done with a small amount of people. But myself, Dr. Marilyn Barger, who many of you may know, Daniele, and Teresa are the team here at FLATE that try to make all this happen. And we definitely appreciate you being here today, and appreciate any comments or advice you have for us on how we can do a better job helping promote manufacturing in Florida. All right, so without further ado, this is a very exciting presentation for me. I was fortunate enough to be involved when this partnership was created here in Jacksonville. And hopefully you'll see, after the group gets talking, you'll be able to see how you can implement this in your area and really help promote new students getting into manufacturing careers. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Carissa Gardner, who works at Florida State College and will be our facilitator today.
Thank you all for joining us today. We've got an exciting and broad topic, and there's no one format on, there's no one format. Sorry, picking up on something. Anyhow, so just keep in mind that we're just an example of here in Northeast Florida, Jacksonville. And so here on the panel, we've invited, on the next slide, please. We've got Dr. Heather Kenny from Florida State College at Jacksonville. She is recently the new Executive Director for Dual Enrollment Articulation. Hi, Heather. And then Jill and Wendy are representing Duval County Public Schools. And you'll hear more about them when we open up our next question. Then certainly our partner, Abe Algaran from Johnson & Johnson Vision. So we will jump into these questions. As those of you listening on the call, surprisingly, even outside of Florida, might have some questions. And so we want to leave enough time to get to those as well. So if please utilize the chat box, and Teresa will help me gauge those questions there. We can stop along the way, or we might stop at the end for any of these questions. But certainly you've entered this call to know exactly how to develop ET enrollment. And so with our first question for, and we'll go from left to right with Heather. In less than 2 minutes, if you can share your perspective on what got you interested in dual enrollment.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We're excited to have you here today. My perspective from the FSCJ side of things is working with, I have a team of around 6 people that work solely with dual enrollment and articulations across the college. And we are always looking at ways that we can engage our high school population in helping them to engage in the college earlier. And so we've, for a really long time, have had the opportunity to work more on the AA side, the Associates of Arts side, getting students into those classes. And as we move forward with really trying to develop the CTE side, we've gotten more creative in the way that we're looking at career and technical education. We've had some programs here at FSCJ for a while. We're going to talk about those today. And then we've started to really look at other ways to engage populations that may not have an opportunity to do our traditional dual enrollment with GPAs and different things like that. So we are looking at ways to collaborate with DCPS and our other stakeholders.
Jill, would you like to share your perspective on DCPS is involved in dual enrollment.
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. And just to extend a little bit from what Heather had shared, it's really important to share with all of our students the extended learning opportunities that they may have. And obviously, I'm very interested on the CTE side, the dual enrollment opportunities they have. And like Heather said, these conversations started around technical certificates, the AS degrees, and where they can lead down those CTE pathways. And really to jumpstart these conversations, when I began my role here was with the CTE Dual Enrollment grant from the state, and really helped us to kind of jumpstart and begin these conversations of what could we offer our students, what pathways are there for our students to begin earning college credit while in high school, and those important industry certifications, and really getting ready for whatever happens after high school. And then from there, really the opportunities have been endless. We've been creative and like Heather said, engaging students that haven't been engaged in the past or had the opportunity in the past to participate in dual enrollment. So that's really where the interest began and where we're continuing to go. So.
Thank you, Wendy.
Good afternoon, everyone. And to add just a little bit to what has already been said, it's been important to us in our district. We've offered a lot of academic dual enrollment to our students, and we know that one of the biggest benefits to our families is the option for them to have a cost savings when they graduate high school and enter college, because they've already earned college credit. But we did need to capture another group of students who were not necessarily looking or had interest in academic dual enrollment or had the GPA or test scores required. So we were excited to go dive into the opportunity to offer career dual enrollment that led to industry certifications, and it helps students to connect to some of their interests. And so, as Heather and Jill already said, we just wanted to explore the opportunity to expand options to reach more students.
Certainly speaking to that industry partner, Abe, and then Teresa, we have some slides from Abe to show.
Yeah, thank you, Carissa. It's a great opportunity to be here and share our thoughts from the industry. I work for Johnson & Johnson. We had some partnership with DCPS and some schools in providing summer internships for us. And also we had worked with FSCJ in some courses and training for our employees. We wanted a sustainable long-term relationship, more than just a summer program for the kids. We had real good successes with those summer internships. Those students did end up with real good jobs, not just with us, across the industry in different areas. So we thought we want to establish a long-term sustainable relationship, and we did enter into an agreement with one specific school and FSCJ for this dual enrollment in manufacturing and engineering.
Thank you for that information. So for those of you on the call, certainly there's 3 entities here that are being interviewed. We've got Duval County Public Schools, we've got the college system, and then certainly an industry partner. And in this case, Johnson & Johnson has had some history in helping us build internship programs, outreach, and then certainly the dual enrollment. We'll begin next with our next question. See that is, and this will be for Jill. Jill and Wendy, how can you identify companies to partner with on a new program?
Sure, that's a great question. So when you're looking for partners to work with, the partnership really needs to be mutually beneficial. You want to make sure, obviously, as a school district, that you're getting what you need, but the partner needs to be receiving something as well. So we look at developing industries within our region, or we look at the developing industries within our region to determine what pathways are growing and how to develop that talent pipeline. So where is the growth, what's needed? And then we look for partners who have the resources that we need access to, or that they can access the resources from others and are interested in investing in our local community and in our students. And that doesn't always mean monetarily either. Sometimes the in-kind support or the expertise that they can provide to ensure that our students are being taught what is necessary in our programs to be relevant can be more important to us than the funding that can be provided. So that's really important to us. We've been working on a model where our academies can be sponsored by a individual partner, and that is a really beneficial model for us in really creating these talent pipelines for individual businesses and then the greater good of the industry that they're in. And that has been working well for us in different industries and with different partners. So it really, like I said, has to be mutually beneficial, and it has to work within these growing industries, which there's many of them here in Northeast Florida, and lots of industries are looking for talented individuals. So it goes hand in hand right now within the CTE world.
Wendy, would you like to elaborate and share how those conversations began?
So certainly, as Jill was stating, we're always looking for opportunities where it's going to be mutually beneficial to our industry partners who are coming on. One of the other things that we've done in the past and how we began this work is the relationship that we have with CareerSource and JAX USA here in Jacksonville. It's just an opportunity for us, being a school district, to tap into the expertise of those organizations because they are directly connected to the industries. They are pulling together data for the city of Jacksonville to let us know where those job opportunities are, where those employers are looking to hire folks. And we're just working with all of our resources again to bring those connections together so that we're all able to figure out what's needed, what we can provide, and how we can work together for the benefit of getting together those, preparing our students to be prepared to go in and meet the needs of those companies that are looking to engage our students.
Yes, and you mentioned CareerSource, which is our local workforce board, and then JAX USA, which is our chamber. And so Abe, kind of the second part to this question is, when did J&J begin their affiliation, and how did that occur?
Yeah, certainly. So we did start out the relationship with DCPS and FSCJ, but as part of the bigger ecosystem, we have First Coast Manufacturing Association, which we are part of. We have Florida Makes, which is a NIST program, manufacturing extension program, and also JAX USA partnership, right? How do we really create a bigger ecosystem where we can pull the students from? So, we cannot succeed as just one partner with our external partners, FSCJ and DCPS in this case, but we need that bigger ecosystem. So I would say this, right? Having this sustainable partnership, dual enrollment, created other opportunities in financial technology, in IT, and other industries. Companies were interested to see what's happening in that space, right? And having a leadership role, we were happy to lead that and have that leadership role and showcase that we can do this, and we want more partners in this, working with the business organizations like we mentioned, right? It was really important to us.
I think, Teresa, you can show slide 14 and how that kind of expanded what Abe is mentioning.
Yeah, so go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to point out the just all the collaboration of the identified schools from DCPS, you know,
Exactly.
and then you're
Yeah, so if we can go back to one slide, Carissa, I can explain a little bit, right? So, we have different partnerships in the community, and some of them are more, just to make sure we are the good citizen in the community, right? So Bridge to Employment would be an example of that, or Women in STEM. We want to create more opportunities for women in science, technology, engineering, and math. But the academy and the dual enrollment were specific that we are creating a pathway for students in manufacturing and engineering, right? So, and if you go to the next slide, we did have a partnership with one school. We are expanding it to 3 or possibly 4 high schools. We have signed an agreement with BCPS and FSCJ. The press release has gone out, and our support from our highest senior leader, that's Peter Mansuso, our group chairman, is quoted, and also other leaders within our partners, right? So we are committed, and we are looking at an associate degree as one pathway, as you can see the first swim lane. And then the second swim lane is more industry certification. It could be a year program, or students are interested in taking courses to get those certifications, right? And how do we expand it from manufacturing to logistics, and also IT and other industries, working with other manufacturers and industries in Northeast Florida is the scope, Carissa, to really expand this partnership.
Yes, and this is a great, for those of you on the call, my dean, Dr. Douglas Brower, who leads engineering and technology here at FSCJ, he always asks that question, what does it take to play? So for those of you on the call, are you already in those conversations? Put that in the parking spot as we come back to, are you having those conversations with the pathways, with the certificates that could be sort of fast-tracked here? So that way you could see particularly how DCPS continued this dual enrollment. So we'll go to the next question. So where do we begin? We've kind of identified, the 3 parties there. And so how do we start? And certainly, like I said, there's not one model. Every area will be different. DCPS specifically speaks to Duval County Public Schools is 197 schools. So we're looking at over 129,000 students. But where do we start? So Jill and Wendy, these questions will be particularly for you. With the district's success in its programs, how did you market the program to students and teachers?
So I think one of the first things that we wanted to do is, as Abe talked about from the industry perspective, was just to be sure that our families and our students understood what Johnson & Johnson was all about, and what a great organization that they were. And then I think we had to then, of course, one of our first high schools was identified in terms of the partnership that already occurred within that school, the location to the industry, to have those particular things in place so that we were had the infrastructure, what that infrastructure was going to look like. And then you start beginning on working with the college to figure out what is the framework in terms of courses, what is this going to look like, and do these courses meet the needs of what the industry is looking for? Are these the certifications that they need? What type of soft skills should we prepare the students for, besides the things that we as educators, prepare them for? We know you need to identify students who understand the importance of just being in attendance regularly at school. You're trying to target and identify that particular group of students who have the work ethic, who's going to work hard, students who were interested in the program. As you all saw on the previous slide, one of the things that we started with this vision that we had, we went into an entire associate in science degree program for the student. And what we realized, because in a option like that, students have to start the coursework in 9th grade. So you really have to find that student who's going to be engaged and understand what they want. Well, you all know teenagers, for those of us who've been working with them, they change from time to time. So a lot of times we see parents pushing them into a certain program at that particular age. Students get in there and they're not necessarily interested in it, or they figure out later on, this just isn't what I want. And so it turned into opportunities where can we start engaging students once they get older? Because going into their junior, senior year of high school, they're more apt to have experienced high school life and just understand a little bit more based on their interest, what they want to do. So, you know, you begin by just figuring out, once you get something in place, what is working, what is not working, what can you do to work with the parties involved to make sure that you have things in place that are going to keep the students engaged, support the students through, because some of these particular courses that lead up to these industry certifications and these degrees, it's very tough coursework. So you got to also consider what type of supports are you going to put in place. You know, at the college, there are so many different resources that are available to students, and that's having that relationship and figuring out, how do we get the students connected? Who are the folks at the schools that we can connect the students to? You know, Jill, you can jump in at any time to just talk about the things that you've learned since coming on board. But I just wanted to kind of set up a framework of just those important basic things that you need to consider as you're getting ready to take you know, go into something in creating a program or programs now that we've started.
Yeah, I think that was excellent, Wendy, because a lot of those things that you mentioned were lessons that I learned. My background is not necessarily in dual enrollment, or I haven't worked on the dual enrollment side as much as Wendy and her team had. And so having the background in CTE, which has not traditionally been linked to dual enrollment, I definitely learned a lot through this experience, which was great for me, and also great for my team and our teachers and administrators to kind of bridge that gap. One of the things that was mentioned, Wendy brought this up, but also so did Carissa, was the marketing piece and the timelines. You know, FSCJ has very tight timelines and enrollment processes and procedures, and I definitely was not aligned with those timelines all the time. And so, you know, Wendy knows them very well with her team from the academic dual enrollment that they have offered for years. And I had to work with my team to get there, because I was like, those courses aren't offered to the fall. What do you mean I have to enroll them already by the beginning of spring? So it was definitely an adjustment for us, and something to be aware of, that the timelines and marketing and preparing kids to pick courses so early is an adjustment and a shift, and something you have to think about. I will say, though, one of the benefits of there's so many different options within dual enrollment. Like Wendy said, you've got the degree pathways, but then having those on and off points of, you can have some more short-term experiences with some courses within those pathways, but also we've started to look at the clock hour programs that can be offered, and those we are trying actually on our high school campus, which I think that has eliminated some of the barriers that we have seen sometimes with transportation. So we do provide transportation for our students to get to the high school, or excuse me, to the college campus, which I think is an extremely important experience for them to be on the college campus and participate in that setting. That's definitely a growth experience for them, and something that is needed. But there are times where that's just not always doable for students. It can be sometimes unreliable with busing. There's just all kinds of things we experience in the education world. So So sometimes to eliminate those barriers, or because we do have some lab settings on our campus that weren't being used, we revitalized that through the use of FSCJ's instructors, and we were able to then re-offer those programs on our campus, but in the dual enrollment setting, which was a huge win for us. And once again, through that dual enrollment grant, we were able to revitalize that. So lots of great things, like I said, lessons learned, and just ways that this collaboration has really brought new opportunities for our students to just latch on to these career pathways that then lead them to be more prepared for jobs like at Johnson & Johnson, which Abe is really looking for, you know, his next employment group. So we're hoping to fill this pipeline. Heather, I don't know if you wanted to add anything either.
No, I was just going to say, I think from the college side of the perspective of when you're starting is really making sure that everyone on the college side is involved. So your dean and your program managers and your provost and associate provost, because the reality is that even if there's critical shortage areas or programs that students really, really want, like nursing and other things like that, there's some programs that we just can't do in a dual enrollment setting. Sometimes age is an issue, but also I think just the faculty, you know, having faculty at the college, everyone is on a limited budget. And so we're always looking for faculty that can come in and teach. And then you're talking about faculty that also want to teach dual enrollment students. And so, you know, it's a combination of those things. I know as Jill and Wendy and I started the process of, we have early college programs, an AS in advanced manufacturing, and then an AS in IT security. Those programs have been established for a good number of years. And those students are getting their full AS degree, which is fabulous. And then they are, you know, graduating, and they can move into whether they want to go into a bachelor's or go on to another area. But what we've been focusing on in the last year or so is really giving those opportunities to students that are not always able to do that 4-year program, like Jill was saying, and giving them pieces either at the high school or then on the college campus. And I would say the number 2 things that we do really well is, one, we have really, I think, solidified how to recruit. We have learned our lesson in being able to get into the high schools, letting students really know what the courses are about and the requirements that, and really what's needed to be successful in those classes. So for example, hardware and software classes that students are taking, those are hard courses. And to be able to say, this isn't for the student that just wants to go and you know, develop video games, or you really need to be ready to get into those classes and learn about those types of items in the class. And so recruitment is one that really has helped us. And 2, we have a case management style at FSCJ with our dual enrollment. So we have dual enrollment coordinators that work specifically with the schools. If the high school counselor has any issues, if the district has any issues, we're going right to those counselors so that they can help to bridge between FSCJ and DCPS so that the student doesn't get lost in that process. So whether that's they need additional academic support, they're not going to class, they're, you know, whatever that might be, that we're helping them through, along with giving some of those soft skills that they need as they progress through.
Thank you, Heather, for mentioning that. So that support system. So FSCJ, they have the case managers, and then not aside from, they are now, you know, a college student, so they have access to the regular student services, correct?
Correct, right. And so they get both the high school services and they get the FSCJ services. So they have a lot of opportunities to really, you know, thrive, whether that's the tutoring services or that's going to be getting involved with clubs and organizations, or even just really connecting with college faculty and having that opportunity ahead of time.
I'd be remiss not to, you know, loop back in our dual enrollment parents. You know, how are we saying, you know, IT, manufacturing, you know, that our CTE programs, that there is a pathway for them. So Was there anything specific that either DCPS or FSEJ that you did specifically to engage parents?
Yes, so I can speak to that, Carissa. One of the things when we started the program, and I'll use our partner Johnson & Johnson, since Abe is on the call, they were very instrumental in when we were hosting informational sessions about the new programs, to actually host those informational sessions at Johnson & Johnson at the industry site. So I think that it gave parents a good idea of what the actual industry looked like. They were able to engage with some of the employees that worked at Johnson & Johnson. And so although they were going into, they understood the academic side, they did not quite understand what it looked like for those opportunities to do the internships, to have the job shadowing opportunities, to participate in the advanced manufacturing days and opportunities that Johnson & Johnson hosted for us. So a part of that was not only having the school involved and getting the support from the teachers and administrators at the school, but also bringing in those industry people so that our families could connect with them and just see from both sides what would be happening. Our FSCJ were also involved in those things because, again, we talk about dual enrollment, and we know that that's a partnership where they're taking high school classes. They're getting high school and college credit for taking college classes, but also letting parents see the industry side of what opportunities their students had.
Thank you for sharing that. Our parents are critical in those decision making, that they, to have them in this program. We did mention that that partnership and that conversation with the professors. Some of our classes, or of the classes, have been taught at DCPS, correct, Heather? Our professors physically.
Yes, we have professors that physically go out, but we also were working towards credentialing high school faculty that are FSCJ adjuncts, so that can go out and they're right at the high school. We have that in our articulation agreement with DCPS, and so we credential faculty at the high school, and they're treated just like an adjunct faculty would be at FSCJ. And they teach right at the high school, which is great because then the students have the opportunity to not have to go on to campus. It allows us also the opportunity to offer additional classes that we may not have faculty for right away, and be able to send them out to the campus. So we do a couple different ways with the workforce side. So our HVAC program and our medical assisting, those programs are a little more flexible because they are clock hour programs. So they're not credit based. And so the faculty are able, they go out all week and they're at the high school and they work with those students on the campus. So it's a great opportunity on both sides.
Maybe some of those on the call are thinking about if there's a, was there an associated district cost, or was there an associated FSCJ cost? Very quickly, is maybe we can't put an exact dollar amount, but other than time and planning and recruitment and investing in that, is there an associated district cost?
There is a cost to the district when those when our students take courses at the college campus. There is not a cost to the district when we're able to, as Heather described, have a teacher credential, and those teachers come, they credential our high school teachers. There is a cost if they are sending an adjunct who's employed by the college to come teach those courses. We do pay the adjunct salary for that particular teacher. I think, Heather, and correct me if I'm wrong, for our some of the dual enrollment coursework, it's about $77 per credit hour that the district pays to the college for our students taking the courses on the college campuses.
Correct. They pay the in-state tuition without the fees. So dual enrollment students do not pay any type of fee that would go to the college. So they pay the base tuition price, and that's per credit, and based on that. And then there's the clock hour pricing too, which I think is $2.18 per clock hour per student. So if we send out faculty, if it's our actual adjunct faculty that go out to the campus, then the district pays for the tuition and the faculty. If it's a faculty member that's a high school teacher that we're able to credential because they have a master's degree or they have the credentialing in CTE, then we eliminate the tuition cost, and then the DCPS pays the faculty.
It's critical to know what support systems on the administrative side you have at both the district level and then also your college side. Certainly all of those is going to look unique to those on the call, depending on your area. We'll go on to the next question. So the significant piece about this webinar is that we're speaking to work first programs in CTE. Heather, you've mentioned some of those. And so it's separate from early learning college, but I want to jump to the data. This is how we see that our industry partners are wanting to feed their pipeline. And so what enrollment increases have you seen in college, in DCPS, in the industry? So we'll go across the line here, and I'll start with Jill. We'll go to slide 15 there, Teresa. Right, 15. And so what enrollment increases have you seen?
So I think, Heather, you provided some data. Do you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and we are still working. We have CTE data on our AS programs that we've established for the last couple of years. The newer technical certificates that we've implemented, we started in the spring of 2023. So we are still working on, as far as data is concerned, to see that consistently right now. And Carissa, you can probably go to the next slide. Overall, for dual enrollment, we have around 3,200 students. That's across DCPS, Nassau. That's all of our dual enrollment. And as you can see here, there's three schools that participate in the AS program. That's Andrew Jackson Cybersecurity Academy. It's also Englewood Advanced Manufacturing Academy. And then it's going to be the Sandalwood Cybersecurity Academy. So those three high schools right now, we are averaging around 15 to about 25 students per school, depending on the program as they come up. So their freshman and their sophomore year is done at the high school. They then come up and finish out the AS program at the college in their junior and senior year. So they go full time, taking around 4 classes a semester. In the CTE program, you can go to the next slide. In the CTE, thought there was one more. In the CTE additional technical certificates, we have mechatronics, we have network technician, and we also have logistics. We're right now hosting about 1 section per program, and our numbers are anywhere from about 15 to 25. It looks like logistics next year, we're full again, and we'll probably be up around 30 for logistics and 25 for the other 2 cohorts. So, every year we're starting in the fall, we decided to only do a 1 time a year cohort, just so that we're able to offer those classes consistently. In the HVAC and the medical assisting, we're around the same number of students per cohort. And so as we move forward, we're hoping we can grow those, depending on whether it's growing different programs or maybe offering more sections of each of those programs. We really just have to see where the need is really, and go from there. Wendy, or sorry, Jill, go ahead. Do you want to add in?
No, that's okay. That's perfect. And I will just say anecdotally that there definitely was growth from what we offered this spring to what's going to be offered in the fall as far as the number of students enrolled in each section, because just the change in how we marketed the programs, like you had mentioned, I think going directly to students and also having students who were in the program come out with staff really helped. And then talking to principals and further explaining what we were doing, because we had never done CTE dual enrollment before, made a difference. And they finally understood, okay, that this makes sense. This is a really good opportunity for our kids. And so that kind of caught on, and just the conversations we were having. I don't think they really truly knew what we were doing or offering at first. It was a small pilot, which was fine. And so now it's growing, and we're getting a better handle on the process. And I think naturally it's just taking off. So, and also too, sometimes, like you said, they don't know what mechatronics is. Every time I say mechatronics, they're like, what is that? And I know what it is, but I still have to sometimes Google it to make sure I say it right and explain it right. And usually pictures do a better job than even explaining it. But so I think that's part of it too, is if an adult doesn't know what mechatronics is, 9 times out of 10, a kid is not going to know. So it's part of that process of just really getting on their level and then engaging them a little bit better. But I think just word of mouth and explaining what we're doing has really helped to grow the cohort sizes, which I'm extremely proud of all of our teams working together to do that, because that alone shows that people are enjoying what we're doing. They think it's important, and it's catching on. So that's exciting for us in Duval.
And Carissa, just so that you know, on the Nassau side, I know we don't have them here today, but on the Nassau side, there is an EMT program, and they also are looking at welding. And so there's other programs, just for people that are on the call. There's so many different things that you can do. We've started to select some, but it's really based on what the need is. But I think each county is going to be different as you kind of look at your programs.
EMT, and then our department also has aviation, and so there's a choose aviation curriculum coming down the pipeline. Yes, exciting stuff. And then of course, certainly this wouldn't be in effect if Abe, if you can share, what on your end, how beneficial were these programs? What enrollment?
Yeah. So Carissa and team, we were so excited about the AS degree program. We really thought it's going to bring a lot of students and employees to us, which it did. But I would say this, right? With the AAS degree, these students are pursuing engineering degrees after their AAS degree, which we love to have them do. And some of these students, they are the first in their families to get a degree, right? And at the best universities. So that partnership and the students getting a higher education certainly did flourish. We would say we have hired 7 to 8 employees from the program. With the COVID, we had a slowdown, and we are trying to revamp that, as well as with the 1-year certification program. We want to create a bigger pipeline of students coming to work for us and not wait through 4-year degree engineering college, right? So those are the highest demand jobs that we have. We need to hire 100 more employees this coming year, right? So how do we get more students interested? And they don't have to go through an AS degree or a 4-year college program to come work for us. And the good news is that we could pay for their tuition to complete if they would like to complete their 4-year degree or AS at FSCJ or another higher education institution, right? So yeah, we had good success. The employees we have, they're top notch. They're trained in what they are coming in for. So we're happy with that whole program.
Yes, it's definitely important. We've mentioned, there's students that are first generation, and are looking for that shorter track. And then we've mentioned making the, recruiting them and not lowering the standards, but allowing a more accessible program. So Jill or Wendy, I believe it was with the new mechatronics technical certificate, it was 2.5 GPA. Just to circle back on that.
Correct.
Yes, that's correct.
And I think that definitely impacted the enrollment increase. Would you say?
I would say, because based on the eligibility for dual enrollment, it was a 3.0 based on GPA, and students had to have post-secondary readiness test scores. So with some of the newer career programs that we're doing, students are they have to have the 2.5 GPA, and then it's a 2.0 for some of the clock hour programs that we are implementing. And so we are, again, one of the biggest goals here to have a workforce ready community is to offer opportunities that will be more accessible to more students.
Accessibility, definitely a key word. Thank you for that, Wendy. I think the bulk of our time here in our remaining 4 minutes, hopefully we can ask, what's one hard lesson that you've learned? And maybe we'll start with Abe.
Yeah, sure. And like I said, right, the AS degree is a good start, but I would say that expanding it, and as Wendy and Jill and Heather said, we have more access to more students, allowing us to have a larger amount of students, attending manufacturing. The other piece is just the awareness, right? We are a big company in Jacksonville, Florida, but not many students and parents know who we are. So we have to increase our presence in the community and attract more students into manufacturing and supply chain and related industries.
Definitely, for those of you on the call, link up with your local regional manufacturing association to make that happen. Wendy, Jill, what would you say? One hard lesson that has been learned of this?
I think one hard lesson for us is just understanding that we were ruling out groups of students when we were not offering transportation from the high school to the college campuses when the courses were offered at the college. So ensuring that we had the option to have buses run from our high schools to our college campuses.
Yeah, eliminating barriers as a whole, I think, is always one of our goals. And so just identifying that, like Wendy said, between the buses, the GPA, the college ready scores, I think that was something that we looked at as a whole. And then, like I said before, just timelines and making sure that, not coming from that area, that my team as a whole on the CTE side is just very aware of deadlines and timelines on the FSCJ side, and we are aligned with that. Is something that we just have to be better about for next year, because you almost have to plan a year in advance. So there's no time to be preparing late, I should say. So
Heather, can you speak to
Yeah. I think from coming and doing traditional dual enrollment on the AA side, we had a pretty good, solid, way of doing things. And I think as you bring new programming in, you're always looking at how do you fit it in your current structure. And for us, it was working with Jill and Wendy to say, okay, what do we need to tweak to be able to add that in? And then training my team to be able to say, this is what the programs are. And so that they know when they're talking with students, what is mechatronics, and so that's a switch a little bit. I think for us too, one of the lessons we learned is that not every student is ready to go to college, right? And take college credit. And so really, as we did our recruiting this year, was being able to say, this is a college course like we do traditionally, But really being able to hone in on that and get the students that are interested. And so that was a little bit of a learning experience. We want students to be able to try things, but we don't want them to not do well, especially when it's on their permanent record, on their transcript. And so, you know, I would rather them stay in a CTE high school program and then us articulate later on some of those classes into credit rather than take a college class. And I think one of the other things that we learned is just the students being able to really negotiate and look at time management when they're going to high school for 3 or 4 periods, and then they're coming to college and they're doing up 2 periods, and then they're going home and you're expecting them to do homework and play sports. And, you know, and so I think just having them be able to manage that time. So, but I think as we go along, we're learning those ins and outs to be able to support the student and the parents.
I did want to add just one thing though. I do think between this group, between, you know, Abe, Johnson & Johnson, everyone who's worked on dual enrollment, I think the humbling thing is obviously we're all in this for the students, but being able to all work together to try to always say yes has been probably one of the best things of working in an innovative group like this. You know, a lot of times when you're working with people who have done things for so long and done it a certain way, you know, it's easy to say, no, this is how we do it. This is how we do it. But even as Abe said, you know, shifting and creating programs so that students can be successful, even though this is what you thought would be the way for them to be successful. It's been a very humbling and rewarding experience to work with adults who are willing to say yes, even when it's outside of the box and not the norm, because it is for kids and what's going to be best for kids. And I think that's been probably one of the best things in working with this group, and with Heather's team too. And some of these wild things were like, can we try this for our kids and let's just see what happens? And they've been willing and letting us do it and see, and it has worked out. So, and even if it's for one kid, that's all we can ask for. So I think just to say that this group has been, you know, wonderful to work with and rewarding to get to do this for our students who really need it. So
Definitely for our students. I mean, they are our future workforce, and that is what industry is, you know, knocking on the doors. You know, we need X amount of, you know, technicians. We need the next this and that. And so certainly, you know, are you in those conversations? For those of you on the call, you know, do you have an innovative team around you? And then certainly who's going to say yes for students, just like you said, Jill. Who's going to, I know as department coordinator, scheduling these classes is challenging and fun, but we cap the courses to prioritize the dual enrollment students, and then we open it back up to fill for what we call our needed students. And it seems to work out. You know, certainly here at the state college level, we've got a range of ages in the class. But I don't want to miss out any opportunity for those of you on the call to please type in the chat your questions that we have not maybe already answered for you. I think there'd be a lot of question about your state grant, Jill, and how you that was a benefit we were able, that DCPS was able to work off of.
Hey, Carissa, while this is Ernie again, while people are typing in questions, or you can take yourself off mute, I think, and ask a question as well. But I just want to say a couple of things. I was here when these programs were created many years ago. And I do remember back then there was a lot of naysayers saying it wasn't going to work for this reason, that reason. And I know Abe was involved, and we just went down the list. Whatever issue there was, we figured a way around it, right? It was new to all of us. But I want to bring that up because I think this is an incredibly important program, and I would love to see more of these around the state for lots of reasons. I mean, one is, you know, the main reason, as we talked about, it allows a high school student to get a 2-year AS degree or certificate before they graduate high school. That is incredibly important because most of these parents think their students are going to some Ivy League school most of our, a lot of students don't end up going to a university. So this is their chance, I think, to have a degree and a career option that can provide them a living after they start high school. So that's super important. And the other thing is too, from a college standpoint, and it makes a lot of sense because most of our programs we encoded at night, or we ran classes at night for our regular college students. And there's a lot that wanted to come during the day, but we didn't have enough students to make the day classes happen. But like Carissa said, by combining the high school students and then backfilling that with the regular college students, it allowed us to build the day sections, right? So now we've got more students, regular college students, coming to day classes. So they're able to do that, as well as I think having the adults with the high school students in a lot of cases elevates the high school students' kind of participation and focus, right, while they're in class, because they're not just with a bunch of other high school students. They're in the real classrooms on campus, real equipment with other students, and I think that helps them stay focused. So I just want to say this: if anybody on the call wants to learn more, please contact me, ernie.friend@flate.org. I would love to talk to you about getting a program going in your area. There's 1,000 reasons why it won't work, but we can get by all of them, right? If it worked for us, it can work for you. And this is the best way to get young people some solid career options.
Yeah, Teresa just added your email address. And if you check at the beginning of the meeting, the chat box has all the links with the resources and events and every information we have provided in the slides. Teresa will be sending you a copy of that too.
Is there anybody else on the call that's doing something similar or wants to do this? Yeah, please take yourself off of mute and let's hear your experience. Everybody shy today? Well, I just want to, I'll give it 30 more seconds. No other questions? All right, but please reach out. Please reach out if you do have questions. This is an incredibly successful program that needs to be replicated in a lot more places if we're going to solve some of the workforce problems that industry is facing today, and providing some great career options for young people. I do want to thank the whole team of presenters today. You guys are awesome. Carissa, Joe, Wendy, Heather, and Abe, thank you so much for taking your time to do this. This is really important. And like I said, we're here to help you get one going in your area. So on behalf of FLATE, we thank you for coming, and hopefully we'll see you all soon.
Take care.
Everyone.
Bye, everybody.
That's good.
Bye.